All right, so I wanted to go over transferring UVs from one object to another. And basically, so like if imagine that you've, done UVs on an object, like I'm not saying these are good, but they're different compared to the original ones, and you're like, oops, I've duplicated this object 10 times already, and I don't want to like UV all the objects or delete them all. There's a way to transfer the attributes from that. So it's fairly straightforward. Depending on how you've changed the model, you might need to mess with the settings a bit. But what you want to do is select the object with the nice UVs, and then the object with the gross UVs. And then all you want to do is go to Mesh, Transfer Attributes, and open up the tool settings. So in this case, we're interested in copying UV sets. So you just turn that to all. And then like anything else, we're not super interested in messing with right now, so I'm just going to turn all that off. Sample space is, there's usually, if it's UV based, we're changing the UV, so that doesn't make sense. So there's the other four are like the ones I normally use. Topology works pretty well if it's the exact same model, you've not changed it. You could also try component or local in that instance. World space also has its uses, but I feel like that's more if the objects are sitting in exactly the same spot, if that makes sense. So I'll go through, I guess, a few different versions of these. Let me just, actually, I just duplicated. Cool. So I duplicated that like a million times. So select nice UVs, bad UVs, and then you can flip your UVs in different directions or mirror them. In this case, we don't really want that. So I'll go ahead and hit apply. And you'll notice that, so here's the quote-unquote nice UVs, and then this object now has the exact same UVs. And that's exactly what we were looking for. So let me bring back one of these ugly UV objects, and we'll try the same things with different settings. In this case, I'll do world space, hit apply, and it seems to have actually done well, no, that's pretty bad. So this is one of those instances where like clearly this looks awful and is not what you want. So you could try the different options. And this is where, again, like local space seems to work pretty well. You could also use the component space and apply that, and that'll do pretty decent things. So assuming that you've literally just duplicated your objects, you've not changed the pivots or anything like that, for those transformations, pretty much local, component, and topology tend to work the same way. Nice. All right, so what I'm going to do is just shift this back. So it's, do I have multiple ones? What is happening here? I'm just going to put these in the same place in the world. And I'm going to grab the nice UVs, the gross UVs, and we're going to try world space one more time. Just go ahead. Oh, wait. Are these? Oh, wait. Here, let me make these UVs very ugly with an automatic map. Really? Okay, I'm trying to make a point here, Maya. Dang it. Excuse me. Ugly things. Really? What is going on right now? But like, actually, what is happening? All right, you know what? I have like 8,000 other cylinders hidden, and this is why I kept them stashed in the thing. All right, cool. So I will remove this one back into line with the other one, and now theoretically, if we grab the nice UVs and then the gross UVs with world space on and to apply, they will be the same. So again, this works because it's the same object. It's basically just like in the exact same spot in the world, so it's really easy to copy them. If you positioned all your objects already, that doesn't work as well, but if you happen to be able to go back, then it works nicely. Let's grab another cylinder. So local space works, like I said, until you do something like this. And you freeze transformations on your object, so that, that's clearly not the same position or anything like that. And then you like move your pivot or something crazy. If we do this, and we try to do local, it's gonna not work because you've changed the pivot and all of the other local information. Like local is basically, if we rotate this object, local sort of takes into account the positioning of like the rotation of that object and the translation and all that stuff. And since we've removed that information and we've zeroed all of the transformation rotation out, it's not going to work correctly. If we, for example, like, so here's, I guess, like the nice one. Let's duplicate that a few more times. And the new one, theoretically, if we grab, again, nice and then gross, and then hit apply, still with local checked, because it still has all of the same information from scale and translate and all that stuff, it's able to apply the UVs successfully. Like I said, the second you zero that out, it doesn't work as well. Same basic premise for component. I honestly usually don't use component that often. I'm going to see what happens just out of curiosity if I... Wait, this one already has nice UVs. Let me make the UVs ugly. Oh my god, why is this a thing? I don't know why it's like refusing to apply my automatic maps, but it's very annoying. Alright, so I'm just going to like tilt this some random direction and then freeze the transformations, and we'll try component mode and just like see what happens. Surprisingly, in this case, it actually seems to have done a pretty not terrible job of transferring those over. It's honestly pretty surprising to me. Cool, well that was fun. And then the other thing you can try is, again, if you mess with the... So topology looks at pretty much the same stuff, so it should usually do a pretty good job copying it over. If you've, gone through and like changed the object, in this case, I'm going to see what happens if I go in and like just physically move things around. This probably is going to break some stuff, I would imagine, but let's find out. Usually this is a more extreme version of copying UVs than I really do. I just kind of wanted to let you guys know that the settings existed, but that actually did a beautiful job. So this is still with my translation rotation history intact. Let's see what happens if I like rotate this and then freeze the transformations, and we do this again with component mode. Also surprisingly did a delightful job. Let's try topology. Also does a lovely job. In this space, we could try local again, and in this case that should break it as well. Yeah, that looks awful. So if you're looking for something where you've like rotated the mesh, maybe frozen transformations or made slight modifications, normally I will end up using topology and component for this. This was a very long and drawn out explanation of like 4 buttons, but hopefully it makes sense. Again, it's just mesh and transfer attributes, and then basically just take all these settings. But it can definitely save you a lot of time if you've, made like a piece of wood or something random and then duplicated it 80 times and be like, oh crap, I didn't UV this thing. Then you can go through and just transfer the objects. And for grins, excuse me, I actually honestly don't remember what the answer to this is, but if I were to theoretically select my nice object and then component and do transfer with lots of objects selected, it seems like it doesn't know what to do with that. Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. So yeah, you might need to just sort of go through and like do these manually, but that's still much nicer than having to go through and re-UV 8 objects or lay out all the objects in your scene. So hopefully that was helpful to someone.